Hi, I'm Gary Martin Hayes, and on this segment of my TV show, I will tell you about workers' compensation claims right here in Georgia. I'll also tell you about your rights and the insurance company's responsibilities. So please stay tuned for great resources at the end of this video. And good morning. Thank you for starting your day with us right here on Atlanta's CW. I'd like to talk about workers' compensation in this segment, and this is perhaps the most misunderstood area of the law we have here in Georgia. Everyone seems to have an opinion about what you can and cannot do if you're injured on the job. We often hear, "I was told I could sue my employer in state court." I know a jury would award me a lot of money when they hear about how I got hurt and about the unsafe working conditions at my job site. People are getting hurt out there all the time. I know when the jury hears about all those injuries, they will give me a big verdict. I was told I could either decide to get workers' comp benefits or opt out and sue my employer. My employer told me that if I file for workers' comp benefits, the company would go bankrupt. I don't have to use the company doctor if I get hurt on the job. My boss told me I can't recover workers' comp benefits because the car wreck was my fault. Unfortunately, most of these opinions are completely wrong. To fully understand workers' compensation, it helps to have an understanding about why this system was created. And this is something that I address in my forthcoming book, The Authority on Workers' Compensation Claims in Georgia. And I promise you, I will let you know when the book is released later this year. Before Georgia enacted the Workers' Compensation Act, the only way an injured worker could recover for injuries on the job against the employer was by filing a civil lawsuit. However, the employer could raise defenses to the lawsuit, including assumption of the risk. This defense means that the employee knew the work was dangerous, yet even knowing the risk, he continued to do the job. If he was hurt, he knew this was a possibility and therefore could not recover. It really was an uphill battle for injured workers to recover benefits. And a lot of injured workers would not pursue their claims. Those that did often lost. For the few that did receive a verdict, it was extremely difficult to recover against the employer as the business was not insured and could not afford to pay the verdict. The employer would simply go out of business and the injured worker would still be left with medical bills, a disabling injury, and no safety net. Well, this really was not a good situation for the injured worker or the employer. So the Georgia legislature recognized that something had to be done to better protect the injured worker as well as the employer. And in 1920, our state passed the first workers' compensation laws. Over time, the system has evolved, but the basic tenets are still the same. The injured worker is able to recover authorized medical expenses, a percentage of lost wages, and an additional sum if the injuries are permanent. The employer has to provide coverage if they have 3 or more employees. The employer has to cover the injured worker regardless of fault, unless the injuries were caused by an intentional act of the employee, there was some willful misconduct on behalf of an employee that approximately caused the injury, or some deviation that prevented the accident from arising out of and in the course and scope of the employment. As a trade-off, the employer is insulated from a civil lawsuit. The employer cannot be sued for pain and suffering, emotional suffering, or some other damages. The employer no longer has the risk or the worry about having a large verdict rendered against the company for these damages. The sole exclusive remedy for the injured worker is to file for workers' compensation benefits. The courts have made it very clear that the Workers' Compensation Act is to be liberally construed in favor of the injured worker or his or her dependents. Let me tell you what that means in layman's terms. If it is 50-50 on whether or not the worker should get benefits, then the scale is always tipped in favor of the injured worker. It's also important to keep in mind that you do not have to prove the employer was somehow negligent in causing your injuries for you to be eligible to receive workers' compensation benefits. In fact, you could be the one at fault in causing your injuries and it will not affect your eligibility. However, again, if you intentionally tried to hurt yourself or you did not adhere to certain safety guidelines and procedures or use safety devices your employer had available for you, the injuries may not be covered. One interesting thing to note about our workers' compensation system here in Georgia is that it's made up of laws passed by the legislature as well as rules that are passed by the State Board of Workers' Compensation. And every state has its own system for handling workers' compensation claims. Procedures are different for filing claims, as are the potential benefits one may receive. The last thing you should do is to compare your case to anyone else that is pursuing a workers' compensation claim, especially if their claim is governed by the laws of another state. One must be experienced in navigating the laws and the board rules here in Georgia. If you or a family member or friend is injured on the job, I cannot stress to you enough the importance of hiring an attorney that has many years of experience handling workers' compensation claims. Trust me, it is never a good idea to try and take on the insurance company and their team of lawyers by yourself. It is also never smart to hire an attorney that is not a specialist in this area of the law. You have one chance at justice, one chance at maximizing your health and financial recovery. At a minimum, I encourage you to discuss your potential claim with an attorney before you ever speak with the insurance company. Again, one shot, one chance to recover all the cash and benefits to which you are entitled. If you'd like to speak with me regarding your workers' compensation claim, I make it very easy for you. Just pick up the phone and give us a call right now, 770-934-8000, or you can visit me online at GaryMartinHayes.com.